All right, and we're back. Colin Blake, Real Estate in Different States, episode 7. If you watched the previous episode, you already know our good friend
Episode 8. We on 8
Edgar,
now. Moving
Edgar
on up.
Calderon.
There you go.
So
That's
we're
his name.
we're pretty much just gonna pick off where we were last time because Edgar is just we just want to pick his brain, so we're just gonna keep it going while we have him. So we all refilled our drinks and we're ready to talk. Hit it, boy.
All right. Awesome. All right, Edgar. So last time we left off, we were leading into talking about the tax benefits of investing in real estate. So, can you explain more on that? Like, tell us what that's all about.
All right, yeah. So several tax benefits of real estate, just because you're creating jobs. And one of the ways that it was best explained to me, I don't know if it was explained to me, I read it in a book, but basically, if you invest in real estate, you're creating housing, which is something the government doesn't want to do. And if you've ever lived in public housing or heard anything about housing, the government's not doing a great job at it. So you get benefits for you taking it off their plate and creating that housing for them. So we'll start, I guess, with depreciation, right? So if you buy a property in the eyes of tax laws, IRS, they're looking at the life expectancy of that property to be divided by 27.5 years. And every year you could deduct that value slowly. Um, and that's one benefit. Another benefit is the maintenance. Anything that you use anything that you spend money on to fix that property is a tax deduction. So any of your income, if you made $1,000 but you spent 500 fixing it, you just lowered your income to 500. And again, that's very basic, but there's mileage. If you need to go drive to your properties to collect rent, to do an inspection, anything like that, the mileage is a deduction. If you have an office in your house and you use that space in your house for real estate purposes, that's your quiet space, and that's where you do your leases, that's where you take your phone calls, anything to that effect. Now that part of your mortgage, let's say your house is 1,000 square feet. I'm trying to always use simple math here. So your house is 1,000 square feet, and 200 square feet of that is used for your office business use. Now 20% of your mortgage is a deduction. You can deduct that. Your internet bill, your cell phone bill, all these things that you don't think of when you're in a business and you're working on getting leads for your tenants or trying to do lease. Or Doc Hub is one of the ones that I use to sign leases. I don't manage any of my properties anymore, but at the time I just use Doc Hub now to purchase a sales agreement when I buy property or sell property by owner. But all these type thing, all these subscriptions, QuickBooks, all these are deductions that lower your income. So therefore, you're better protected from paying taxes.
So just a big one that you hit on first, the depreciation. So just to give people an example, real easy example like Edgar was doing. So let's say you buy a house and it's worth $27,500. So you can depreciate that over 27.5 years, 27 and a half years. So that would be equal to $1,000 a year. So that is $1,000 less that you're making technically on that house, even though probably, which is weird, it's probably appreciating, but the government lets you depreciate it, which is a bigger tax saving, even though you're technically probably making money because the house is appreciating. So it's just a kind of a loophole that's weird, but it's out there. And that's not just for house, that's for machinery and other things. But we don't, anyways, just wanted to hit on that one pretty hard because that's kind of hard to think of. But
Yeah, and I think it's one of the things that a lot of people don't know about, or it's not talked about. So again, you don't know what you don't know. And until you make the decision to say, like, hey, I want to learn this, I want to be involved. The best way is uh I guess this will lead into another thing, right? Paying for education, right? Paying for real estate education. A lot of people have these programs and everybody's a guru, and oh, give me $10,000 and I'll show you what you have to do. I myself am against that, right? So I tell people, I've had a lot of people that came to me like, hey, this person is offering me to teach me everything about real estate, and it's only going to cost me 20 grand. And some people say, well, you're looking at the cost, so you're not looking at the value that they're going to give you. Yes, that's one way to look at it. But if you're brand new in the game and you only have $20,000 and you give this person $20,000, all you're going to have now is a lot of knowledge and no experience, right?
Yeah.
So by trade in the army, I came up as a mechanic. I could talk to you all day about how engine works and air intake to gasoline ratio, and we could talk all these things, right? But until you get in there and take an engine apart, you're not going to really understand what a crankcase is, what a piston is, the piston rings, and like all these specific things, right? So I'm a firm believer, and maybe I get this maybe from my upbringing or maybe the military as well, where like you need to be where the rubber meets the road, right? So I think my first example I mentioned, I bought the house with like 20% down, which was about 20 grand. So if I use that 20 grand to buy a property and everything goes wrong, right? My contractors didn't show up on time. Now my electrician's behind because the plumber didn't show up, because that never happens. And now my painter can't paint because my dry guy didn't show up like he said he was going to. And all these things, right? But if I keep a journal and I keep notes and I keep all this, and let's say I lose $10,000 at the end of this, right? I have so much more knowledge and I still have $10,000 where then I can go, I'm sorry, and continue working versus just giving up $20,000. And now I don't have any more capital. I have a whole lot of knowledge, and most likely I'm going to have a analysis paralysis where I have so much that I don't know what to do with it. In the beginning, I'm just a firm believer of, hey, there's so many people that are willing to help you. I assure you, if you reach out to me, send me an email. I have helped dozens and dozens of people for free, nothing. Maybe a beer, maybe we go out to have lunch or something like that. But like, I'm not charging you. And I think that's another big thing too that comes into play going in with that.
Yeah, I agree. That's one of the reasons I respect you so much, man, is just the man that you are. Like, it's so cool to meet people like you in this community, coming here, getting out of the military, wanting to get in real estate, not knowing anything, and just the people like you is what honestly like motivated me, kept me going. Like, and that's what's cool is like I was telling on like episode 2 or 3, like I wish everybody was like you, and most people are. Most people are willing to give back, but there's some people that just aren't. But and that's okay. But the people in the community of real estate investing that help the new people is just it's so amazing, man. I appreciate it for real.
I appreciate that, man. And I guess everybody's mentality is different, right? And kind of like I'm gonna speak about the Clarksville community, right? There's certain people in the Clarksville community that are investors and they just feel like they're not going to talk to the new people, right? Or they're the big dogs, and that's just how they are, right? And my mentality is just, yes, my net worth is X amount and I have X amount of properties right now, but I could lose all that tomorrow, right? But the one thing that's not going to change is my name. And that's what I always need to make sure is in good standing. So no matter what happens, you treat people right, you do the right thing. If you're going to flip a house, I've lost money on flips before because there was expenses that I didn't account for and I didn't think were going to be there, right? You think you're only going to tear down a wall or move a wall, but then you realize, oh, all the electrical needs to be done, or now all the plumbing needs to be redone. So it's just something that comes up that you don't account for because it's hidden behind the wall that you didn't know was there. So you have two options at that point. And I know investors in both ways, right? Some are like, we'll just cover it up and nobody's going to know about it. We'll pass inspection and we'll just sell this and we'll make our money. Yes, that's a option. But the way I look at it is, again, my name, right? My name is stamped to this, just like anything else. Anything that my name's going to be attached to needs to be to the best quality, the highest standard. So is it okay to lose $10,000 on this deal as long as my conscience is clear and I know that the person that's buying this property is going to have a good quality home? Yes, I'm okay with that. I'll make 10 grand somewhere else on the next flip, on the next thing. But just my name needs to be in good standing because at some point it's going to come out, right? At some point they're going to realize like, hey, the plumbing was not fixed correctly at this time. It's too easy to go in and check like, hey, who flipped this house? Who was the last person that owned it? And guess what's going to come up? Veterans Buying Home LLCs who flipped this. Immediately my name is going to be attached to that. And it's downhill from there, right? So it's all about doing the right thing, in my opinion, doing the right thing. Anything that's got your name attached to it, make sure it's done to the highest standard, the highest quality. And this whole business is about relationships. Everything else will follow. Everything else will follow. I 100% guarantee you. Anyone that's chasing money right now, thinking they need to get into investing because they're going to become millionaires, overnight success, it takes time. It takes a lot of relationships. It takes a lot of networking. And if you have a good network, you're going to have a good net worth. I assure you.
I love it.
I got two questions that popped out of that. My first one is, which I've asked Kyle, how did you acquire your team, or how did you build your team, your renovation team? And it sounds like you have a property manager as well. So where did you acquire all these people? How did you find them?
So a lot of vetting. So again, as a veteran, I try to employ veterans as much as possible. Anybody on my team, anybody that I work with, I try to keep it within the veteran community. So my property manager is retired military. Most of the contractors that I used are retired military. Loan officers, whenever somebody asks for recommendation, loan officers, retired military. I just feel that within our community, one, I want to support local veteran businesses. I want to support each other. And two, I feel like it's easy to relate with military veterans because a lot of us have the same mindset, right? We're not going to quit and clock out at 5 o'clock because it's time to get off. A lot of us are going to work until the job is done, or in our eyes, the mission is done, right? Whatever the mission is, that's what we're going to work towards, and we're not quitting and we're not stopping until we've accomplished that. So it's really been a lot of vetting. And I'm not saying all veterans. I obviously there's everything, good, bad, and indifferent, but that's really vetting. It's just trial and error.
I got you.
I guess that's really the best way to explain it. Just trial and error. You're going to have people that are going to do great for you, contractors that did great on the first or second jobs, and after that, they're like, "Oh, well, he's always going to just hire us, so we're just going to now our quality of work's going to go lower." And again, you just have to maintain that standard and say, "Hey, this is my standard. I'm not going to lower it. So we need to stay here, and if you can't meet it anymore, then you're gone on to the next."
And my second question from that, do you truly believe that, I guess I guess karma is the best way to put it, but you doing so good for other people has brought you your success?
I 100% believe that, yes. And again, because I say this is relationship based business, if you just do the right thing by people, like I mentioned before, everything else will follow. Just there's so many. I've interacted with. There's probably one agent at the moment that I can think about. There's several, but this one in particular, in the last 6 months, she's brought me about 4 or 5 deals. And it's just like I hadn't talked to her in a couple of years. We talked, we had a good relationship, everything was good. She's busy, I'm busy. And all of a sudden it's like, hey, things are just happening. And she's having opportunities. And she's like, well, the first person that comes to my mind is Edgar. Let me call him because I know he can close. He has the capital, he's got the resources, and I know he's gonna do right by people. So that alone, even though we hadn't talked in a long time, once you do the right thing by people without expecting anything in return, that's the key. If you're doing the right thing because, oh, well, if I do this, they're gonna help me. Well, then you're setting expectations there, and then it's probably not gonna work out. Just do the right thing. Don't expect anything in return, and you'd be surprised how much you can get in return without doing it with that intent.
That's awesome. Perfect.
Yeah, no, I 100% agree with that. 100, like, this is crazy that you said that because, like, I was talking to some other people about the same thing, but like, I've had like contractors mess stuff up, people that I'm paying like by the hour, and like they'll mess something up where like it's gonna obviously cost me money, right? So it's like I could do one of two things. I could say, hey, well, guess what? You're working for free the rest of the day, or I could go spend, $100 and be okay, don't do that again. Like, because you're treating them well because they're making you money at the end of the day, right? And maybe you'll lose money that day, but guess what? Next time you need them to show up at 5 a.m., who's gonna be there? They will. And just doing the right thing goes a long way, 100%, and building relationships. I'm all about that.
And I think that's what you kind of, I mean, obviously I've hit on in every single episode we've been on, Kyle, is that whenever you got into this business, everything that you've learned and experienced and have been taught has all been relationship based. You went out and you went to this random lunch at an Italian restaurant or something, and everything
I
that
was Shoney's, bro. Shoney's.
whatever it was,
Don't try to make it fancy.
whatever it was, I'm just saying, everything that you have learned and experienced and been through has been relationship based.
No, exactly, and that's the point. Like I wouldn't even be anywhere, and I'm not even. I'm nobody over here in our town. Like I'm just me, but I wouldn't be where I am without people like Edgar, people like other. I'm not gonna say their names here, but like other local investors here that have just been like so humble and down to earth and willing to help me and get to know me and hang out and like our community is so cool. Like the people we have a cool town here, man. I really like it, and the people in the real estate investment community here is just so great. Like most people are just awesome. So, and if it wasn't for them, I'd probably be working some, I don't know, plant or something.
Well,
But
I do want to give a shout out to the military base community in general, because I feel most people in the military base are either raised right or got straightened up in the military and have typically a great mindset and outlook and are very, very hard workers. So, and give back. I mean,
town here,
yeah, so.
sure. But let's get back to Edgar. He's here. So Edgar, one thing I wanted to ask you. So you mentioned cash flow in earlier. I think you mentioned it in our previous episode about your first house, you were renting it for X amount, and then your mortgage was, less than that. So talk to us about cash flow numbers, and that just because you're renting for 1,800 and your mortgage is 1,500, it doesn't mean you're necessarily making $300 a month. Like what else goes into that? What's your mindset, or what's the proper mindset, should I say?
Gotcha. Yeah, for sure. So a lot of people when they first start getting into real estate investment, they think that whatever their mortgage is, as long as they could rent it for $200 more than that or 300, whatever, that difference is their cash flow, right? So simple numbers, if you're renting your house for $1,000 a month and your mortgage is 800, most people say I'm cash flowing $200, I'm doing great. And that is definitely not the way to do it. And if you ever get into real estate investment, you'll quickly learn that is not the way to do it, right? So what I use is, and we'll use a single family. My formula for multifamily is a little bit different, just because I'm a little more diverse, and you have to account for different things. But so with a single family house, 10%, I always account for property management. So again, we'll do simple numbers, right? So I'm going to rent this house for $1,000, 10% to $100. So immediately I'm down to 900. After that, I need to account for CapEx. CapEx stands for capital expenditures. That is all your big ticket items. That is your roofs, your HVACs, maybe water heaters, big things like that. I think right now I just had an HVAC done at one of my units, and I think it was like $6,500. So that's a big ticket item that you need to account for.
Well, sorry to interrupt, is CapEx things that you typically know the life expectancy of? So like your roofs, your HVACs, water heaters, things like that, hey, I can calculate how much money this is going to cost me in a certain amount of time. That way you can calculate the percentage that you
Yeah,
need
do you have like a depreciation model? I'm curious. I really am. Or do you just do a percentage?
I just do a percentage. So kind of like Kyle was saying. So if I bought a property and the roof is 10 years old, then I'm roughly guessing within the next 10 to 15 years, I'm going to have to put a new roof on it.
Yeah.
I try to avoid the insurance claims as much as possible, because then your premiums go crazy. And when you have so many properties, you don't want your insurance carrier to kick you out because you keep making claims on roofs. So I try to account for that myself as much as possible and try to pay for it as much as I can. And like I mentioned, the HVACs, air conditioners are such a big thing in the Clarksville, Tennessee area. It's hot. People use them like crazy. So
Come down here, buddy.
oh, Texas, yeah, there you go. Yeah, you're down in Texas. I'm sure you can relate very well. So the unit that I just put in was about $6,500. So that's something you need to account for. So I try to account for another 10% CapEx roughly. So if we started at $1,000, we already said 10% in um property management, 10 to 50% in CapEx, but we'll say 10% on this one. And then I try to do vacancy,
10%
which
vacancy.
just I do another 10% in vacancy. So already at 30%. So we're down to $700. Vacancy is just it typically, if a tenant moves out on the 30th of June, typically you're going to have about 2 weeks of turnover time. Do we need to paint a wall? Do we need to change some light fixtures? What did we identify during the move out inspection? Whether it involves tenant responsibility or landlord responsibility, it still needs to get fixed before we get somebody else in there. So you're looking at roughly, at least I usually account for a minimum of 2 weeks before you get somebody else in there. And that's just repair. That's best case scenario. You have somebody lined up. Worst case scenario, it's going to be empty for a month or 45 days. So you just got to have that mortgage payment set aside for it. Those are the three big things that I account for. And then sometimes I try to account for maybe 5% of turnover. Because during turnover, you never know what you're going to expect. You could have some great tenants that kept your house really well in great shape, and then you could have tenants that just did not take care of your house at all. So with that being said, let's say 35%. You eliminate 35% from that $1,000 that you're collecting in rent every month, you're down to $650. At that $650, if your mortgage is $700, you're negative $50 every month. So you're negative 50 cash flow.
Yeah.
And once you account for those things, it's like, oh wait, I'm not really cash flowing what I thought I was cash flowing. If your mortgage is 700 and you were renting for 1,000, you thought you were cash flowing 300. In reality, you're not.
Yeah, and that was a thing I had to learn I didn't learn the hard way, but there was properties that I was gonna buy or I bought originally, and I was thinking I was gonna keep them, and I was super excited, and then I would bring them and sit down with another seasoned investor like yourself, and I would say, these are the numbers, and they did the math, and they'd be like, you're gonna negatively cash flow $100 a month, and I'm like, how? Are you serious? Didn't make any sense. But then they broke that same thing you just did down to me, and I'm like, okay, I got it. So then I had to flip it, couldn't keep it. It's like just understanding those numbers is so crucial to buying the right property or keeping a property. So appreciate that, Edgar. That was awesome.
I'm just curious, do either of y'all, Edgar, I don't even know, are you on social media at all?
I am on social media. I'm on Facebook, Instagram. I'm not as active. I go through spurts where I try to like, oh, let me get some followers. Let me try to do this. But at the end of the day, like, I'm a simple dude. I'm not big on technology. I'm simple. Hey, let me just help people within my community.
That's kind of what I felt, but I was just wondering because I don't know if either of y'all follow this guy, and I don't know why I'm giving him a shout out, but Invest with Ace. If either of y'all follow him, but he has a really good module for like investment properties and all sorts of stuff. But anyways, he's pretty cool. So I was just wondering.
Check him out though. That's cool.
Yeah.
I'll definitely check them out as well. Yeah, but no, I have not.
So Edgar, question: any Airbnbs? Thought about it? Done it? Tried it?
I've thought about the short-term rental aspect, and during the COVID era, a lot of our local investors were going hot and heavy, and everybody was saying, turn all your long-term to short-term. I'm a math guy. I did the math, what it was going to cost for me to furnish the property, the time, right? Because I have to account for my time. My time is money. I'm still active duty. I have a lot of trips where I have to go last minute. So for me, it just wasn't worth it. If it's going to cost me $5,000 to furnish this house and it's going to cost me an extra 5 to 10 hours a week to manage this, that no, my time is well used somewhere else instead. So I'd rather just keep them all long-term rentals, let a property manager handle them, and then I just get my monthly reports on what's going on. To me, that's just way better.
And then once you make that jump, because I had Airbnbs, and that's not passive. There's nothing passive about Airbnb, bro. It's active. I've driven houses at midnight doing that, and That's not how you build your portfolio with short term. Like I think long term rentals is definitely how I do it. You want the passive income, you want the taxation, the appreciation, and you don't want to have to worry about stuff at midnight. You don't want to worry people checking in every day or every couple days. It's honestly not worth it, in my opinion.
Yeah, I 100% agree. Again, based off the math and the time, I just didn't think it was worth it. And real quick, I just want to bring something that you brought to my attention, right? With long-term rentals, right? Whenever we start out in real estate investing, most of us want to manage it ourselves, right? We want to do everything ourselves. We want to, well, if I keep the 10% of property management and I manage it myself, I'm gonna make more money and I'm gonna save and I'm gonna be able to cash flow better, right? And it's a big mentality that most people I've spoken with, they say like that's what it is. And I'm one that did it myself, right? I remember being in Iraq or Afghanistan, and I was doing work orders for properties because I was self-managing. And then I had a lunch with one local investor here in Clarksville, and he said, "How much time does it take a week for you to oversee the properties that you're managing? Because even when they go vacant, now you're coordinated the turnover, you're trying to vet the new tenants, you're going through all these Facebook Messenger. You put that on Facebook, you're gonna have 50 messages, and out of those 50 people, maybe 5 are qualified, right? Everybody's got a pit bull, and they're all emotional support animals." So he was like, he's like,
That's so funny.
there's
They are, bro. They'll bring them.
there's one funny story you want to write about tenants.
And
But
he pees, and the pit bull, excuse me, service animal pees everywhere, tears your door up.
yeah, they're not trained at all. You walk up to it and it's trying to bite you. Yeah.
Yeah.
But so
You
yeah,
can't
so
even
so
take
we
this
sat
thing
down.
inside Lowe's where pets are allowed. Imagine one in my house.
So yeah, so whenever we sat down and we talked about that and really analyzed, and he was like, "Look, man, if it's taking you 10 to 15 hours a week, right, overseeing these properties, if you just paid the 10%, right, and offloaded that off your plate, if you focus these 10 to 15 hours a week into acquiring more properties, just imagine how much more you could scale."
Yeah.
And once I shifted my mindset like that, I'm like, man, this is no joke. This is for real. And from there, whenever I made that shift, that's when veterans buying homes took off. Once I took that off my plate.
So did
So
you actually do that though? Like, so you took that time and because like most people with a different mindset would say, okay, well now I got 10 to 15 hours, I'm just gonna chill. Or did you really take that time to be like, I'm going hard to find more properties?
No, if you know me, you know I don't. Nah, I went hard. So if I got 10 to 15 hours back, that means I was able to put in 20 to 30 hours a week into this now.
Yeah.
On top of my military job, on top of all my trips and everything else I was doing. So I scaled, and I guess I'll back it up a little. We'll take it a little personal, right? I got divorced in 2020. I gave up half of my portfolio. At the time, I had about 50 properties. I gave up 7 properties. So I got down to 8. Well, I also gave up half of my bank account. So now half of my capital was down. So now I didn't have the capital. So I had to sell properties. So, and I needed to sell properties in order to get the capital back. So I went from having 8 rentals down to having 3 rentals in 2020. Today we are, what is it, July of 23. I have 56 doors.
Dang, that's freaking I didn't even know that, but that's
dude,
so
I was gonna ask.
cool, man. Oh my God. Dude,
That,
that's so oh
and
that's
that's only the what I kept. That's not including what I flipped because I needed to get capital to get my
bro.
bank account to keep it going.
You scaled. That's crazy fast, dude.
We're gonna have to do an episode 3 now now that I know this.
Yeah,
That's
Dude,
crazy.
that's insane, bro. What the heck?
yeah. Divorced October of 2020.
How'd you
In
even
less
do
than
that?
3 years. Yeah, and I've got enough that.
In 3 years,
And
you
you
got
didn't have your
56
capital
properties.
either. You have your capital. Dude. Wow.
Yeah,
You've acquired more than 1 property a month.
yeah. And again, this is doors. So yeah, I have multi. I have Aplex. I have a
I mean, yeah. I mean, I consider a duplex 2 houses. I mean, it is.
Yeah.
With a door, yeah.
But okay, so my
That's great.
question is, when did you decide, okay, this is too much? I know you said the conversation, but when did you decide, let's let a property manager take it all over? When was that?
That
Was
was
it prior to divorce?
probably in 2021 after my divorce.
Oh, that was after, okay. So
Yes.
that was
Yeah.
when you had 20 properties, 12?
No, well, let's see. Yeah, I think by that time I had scaled back up to about 12 properties,
Okay.
and I was self-managing still. So that I would say that was probably mid 2021.
So at a baker's dozen, you're like, all right,
It's time. It's time to pass these off. And again, once you have more doors, you can negotiate your property management fee. So instead of paying 10%, I negotiate to 8%.
that's what, okay.
Nice.
But
Hey, I have one more
he's still
question,
making,
and if we can, please, please, please.
yeah, I'm sorry. He's still, what's your property manager making? I'm just curious. 8 grand a month? I don't know.
Uh,
Now, probably.
Probably, yeah, I'd have to do the math on it and look at the report.
It's-
I don't look at how much he makes.
But
'Cause at the end of the
property
day, it doesn't
management
matter.
sucks. You don't want to be in, no, that's the
Yeah,
worst.
No, that's
if
not
my,
You
my
ain't
job.
trying to
I'm
go
just
be a
curious.
property.
I'm just curious.
if my property manager's making 30 grand, I'm excited. I'm happy because that just
Yeah.
means I'm cash flowing as well. So
No, I got a
I don't look at how
mindset.
much he makes.
I think we're gonna
Mindset.
have to do an episode 3, man. We're
No, no,
gonna
how much time we got?
have
Let me squeeze in real quick. All right, I'll be real quick. All right, so
Sorry.
mindset question. Edgar, before you said you went down at one point to 3 properties, right? Is that what you said after, and then you scaled
3
up after?
properties in 2020. Yeah.
Okay, so and you went down from like your top was like 20 something to 3. How did you deal with that with your mindset? Like, because to me, that would just feel like I was on top of the world. Now I'm crushed and I don't have anything. And then you went well past that and like doubled what you used to have. Like, what was your mindset to that? How did you do that?
Tripled.
Honestly, like now that you mentioned that, like I didn't even think about that, to be completely honest with you, because it's not about, I guess, the number of properties or the cash flow. Like kind of said from the beginning, like I came from nothing. I had nothing. I don't buy nice clothes. I don't. So to me, it was the pride. The pride. I guess I'm not gonna lie. Like that kind of hurt a little bit because like, hey, I've worked so hard for this and I did so much for this, and now I have to give away half because of a divorce. But at the same time, like me and my ex-wife don't have a bad relationship. Nothing bad to say. Like she moved around for the 15 years. At the time, I had 15 years in the military when I got divorced. It was like, it's still staying within the kids. Like, am I gonna argue over this when I could go make, the way I looked at it, like, am I gonna argue over dimes when I know I could go make dollars, right? As long as you have the knowledge, you have the mindset, everything else is follow. Like, I know how to fish. I'm gonna go fish, right? So if I gave these 7 properties away at the divorce, that's fine. Like I just fed someone. I just gave them the fish, but they don't know how to go fish. I know
Yeah.
how to fish, so I don't mind that I only kept 8, and I knew I had to sell 5 to get the capital to keep it going, if that makes sense. So that's really what my mindset focused on. And at the end of the day, I really wanted the properties to stay for the kids, so why not?
Yeah, that's awesome, man. It's just, man, it takes a solid, strong mind to do that. But you hear
So
stories about,
are we not gonna dig into how he went from 3 to over 50 in 3 years? I mean, that is impressively,
how much time is left now?
uh, 1 minute and 32 seconds.
Oh, okay. Well,
That really goes by quick when you're doing
I'm
that.
telling you, man.
all
But
right.
that is,
Well,
dude, he got 50 properties in the past 3, and not just in the past 3 years. We got to think about this time frame, right? This is COVID. This is the market.
well, COVID was great for real estate.
COVID was great for sellers. He was a buyer. 2021, 2022 was a seller's market. You had multiple offers on all properties. I maybe it's different in Tennessee, but down here, dude, every property had 10, 15 offers.
So that's where the key goes, right? Anytime, and I'm not saying there's no deals on MLS because I have bought deals through MLS, but most of the deals are off market.
That's what I'm trying to figure
They
out.
are crazy. I
How
hate
did
to
you
interrupt
get
everybody, but
properties?
this has to be a wrap on Real Estate in Different States, episode 8. I'm sorry, we're gonna run out of time.
No,
So
I
we're
need to
gonna
figure out
have
how
to
I
have
get
Edgar
50
on for another
properties.
episode, but it is what it is. We're limited on time via the app we're using. So we're gonna catch you guys next time. Tune in,
Are we doing episode 3?
episode 9, featuring Edgar, part 3.
Oh my goodness, this is crazy.
This is crazy.
Dropping knowledge bombs.
Dude, I'm learning. There's
I'm
a-
learning too. I
I'm
got
like,
a whole page full of notes and
I know.
notes.
I'm gonna
I'm
stop
I'm
recording.
gonna watch the episode and be like, all right, what did you think?
I know. I'm gonna stop recording. Just talk to Edgar straight.
Hey, fly down here and talk to him in person, buddy.
I'll be there.
All right. End it.
See y'all.